What if I told you that some of the most powerful voices in gospel music, who once inspired millions with their faith, faced a shocking downfall that no one saw coming? Behind the songs that lifted spirits and the stages that echoed with hope, many of these gospel legends struggled silently, losing the very faith that made them icons. From beloved singers to revered pastors, their journeys took unexpected turns. Some faded into obscurity, while others spiraled down paths filled with pain and controversy. Brace yourself, because these are 15 gospel legends who lost their faith and went downhill in ways you wouldn't believe. 15. Sam Cooke. Before Sam Cooke became the king of soul, he was gospel royalty. As the lead singer of the Soul Stirrers, he could make congregations weep and shout. But the bright lights of secular success called to him, and Sam answered. He left the church behind for fame and fortune, trading hymns for hit records. The transition wasn't smooth. Sam struggled with his identity. Was he still the gospel boy his grandmother raised, or had he become something else entirely? The church felt betrayed. Fans were confused. And Sam? He was caught between two worlds, never fully belonging to either of them. His personal life became a mess of controversy and demons he couldn't shake. On December 11, 1964, at just 33 years old, Sam Cooke died under mysterious circumstances at a Los Angeles motel. Some say it was the price of turning his back on God. Others believe the pressures of fame and the guilt of abandoning his spiritual roots finally consumed him. 14. Aretha Franklin. The Queen of Soul started as a princess of gospel. Aretha Franklin cut her teeth singing in her father's New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit, where Reverend C.L. Franklin was already a legend. That little girl with the big voice seemed destined for greatness in the Lord's house. But Aretha's path to secular stardom came with a spiritual cost. Behind that powerhouse voice that could move mountains was a woman wrestling with faith, doubt, and personal turmoil. Her relationships were rocky, her struggles public, and her spiritual journey became a roller coaster that played out for decades. Even at the height of her fame, Aretha never completely abandoned gospel. She'd return to record albums like Amazing Grace, reminding everyone where she came from. But those close to her knew the Queen was fighting battles that fame couldn't fix. Did she ever find the peace that her gospel roots promised? The question haunted her until her final breath. 13. Leandrea Johnson. Leandrea Johnson exploded onto the gospel scene like a holy hurricane. Her victory on BET's Sunday Best in 2009 should have been the beginning of a beautiful testimony. She had the voice, the anointing, and the platform to change lives. Instead, Leandrea became the gospel's most controversial figure. She openly admitted to drinking heavily, cursing out church folks, and questioning everything she'd been taught about faith. Her relationship with God became a public battlefield, played out on social media and in interviews that left gospel fans shocked. The church that once celebrated her began to turn away. Leandrea seemed to embrace the rebellion, pushing back against religious expectations and traditional gospel culture. She's made attempts to reclaim her faith and her place in gospel music, but the damage runs deep. Has she truly found her way back to God? Or is she still fighting the same demons that derailed her career? The jury's still out. 12. Tonx, now B. Slade. Anthony Charles Williams, known as Tonx, was gospel music's electric innovator. His blend of traditional gospel with contemporary sounds made him a star and a lightning rod for controversy. But nothing prepared the gospel world for what came next. When Tonx came out as gay, the traditional gospel community didn't just turn their backs, they slammed the door shut. The rejection was swift and brutal. Churches canceled concerts, radio stations stopped playing his music, and fellow artists distanced themselves. The pain of that rejection transformed Tonx into B. Slade, a secular artist who left gospel behind entirely. He traded church stages for nightclub venues, sacred songs for secular sounds. Did the church's rejection push him away from God, or did embracing his authentic self require leaving the faith that couldn't accept him? It's a question that still divides gospel fans and raises uncomfortable truths about love, acceptance, and faith. 11. Whitney Houston. Before Whitney Houston conquered the world with her voice, she was just a young girl singing in New Hope Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey. Gospel was her foundation, her training ground, and the source of that incredible instrument that would make her a legend. But fame is a dangerous drug, and Whitney got hooked early. As her career skyrocketed, her personal life spiraled. Addiction, toxic relationships, and the pressures of superstardom pulled her further and further from her spiritual roots. Even as Whitney sang songs about faith and hope, those close to her knew she was drowning. The gospel foundation that built her seemed powerless against the chaos consuming her life. When she died in 2012, Many wondered if Whitney ever found her way back to the God she'd sung about so beautifully as a child. Her tragic end serves as a reminder that even the most gifted voices can lose their way. 10. Marvin Gay. Gospel wasn't just music for Marvin Gay, it was a family business. His father, Marvin Gay Sr., was a Pentecostal preacher, and the church was central to young Marvin's upbringing. Gospel rhythms and spiritual themes would influence his entire career, even as he ventured far from his roots. But Marvin's life became the opposite of everything his father preached. Fame brought drugs, depression, and a darkness that seemed to consume him. Even when he created masterpieces like What's Going On, which contained spiritual elements, Marvin seemed to be pleading more than believing. The relationship with his preacher father became toxic and violent. Marvin's struggles with faith, identity, and demons culminated in the ultimate tragedy on April 1, 1984. His father shot and killed him during a domestic dispute. Did Marvin ever find peace with the God his father served? The question died with him, leaving only the haunting beauty of his music as testimony to a tortured soul. 9. DJ Mo. Samuel Moret, known as DJ Mo, was one of Kenya's most prominent gospel DJs and media personalities. His radio shows and events promoted Christian music across East Africa, giving him significant influence within Christian circles. His reputation was damaged by scandals, questioning his character and ministry. Allegations emerged about personal conduct, business practices, and industry relationships. The controversies grew until his effectiveness as a Christian media personality was severely compromised. The scandals were particularly damaging because DJ Mo had positioned himself as more than entertainment. He was seen as a ministry leader and moral voice. When his conduct came under scrutiny, the contradiction between public persona and private behavior became impossible to ignore. His downfall effectively ended his Christian media career and warned about the dangers of unchecked influence within religious entertainment. 8. Kelly Price. Kelly Price's journey began in the church, where her powerful voice was forged in gospel tradition. She started as a backup vocalist, lending her incredible voice to some of the biggest names in music. Gospel was her foundation, her training ground, and her spiritual home. But Kelly's career path led her toward R&B and secular success. As her personal life became tabloid fodder, struggles with weight, loss, and relationship drama, her faith became a public question mark. She spoke openly about questioning religion and feeling disconnected from the church that raised her. The woman who once sang with such conviction about God began to express doubts about everything she'd been taught. Kelly's journey raises difficult questions about whether the gospel can ever truly be left behind, or if some people are just too wounded by life to keep believing. Her story continues to evolve, but the questions about faith and doubt remain. 7. Cory Koko brother, Condry. Cory Koko brother. Condry was gospel radio's golden boy, a charismatic host and artist who seemed destined for greatness in Christian media. His voice, personality, and apparent faith made him a favorite among gospel fans and industry insiders. But allegations and controversies began to swirl around Cory, shaking his reputation and calling his character into question. The details were often murky, but the damage was real. Cory stepped away from the limelight and ministry, leaving many wondering what had happened. For someone who had preached faith and righteousness to thousands of listeners, the fall was particularly devastating. Did the faith he proclaimed so publicly fail him in his private moments? Or did private failures make it impossible to continue preaching publicly? Cory's story shows how quickly a gospel career can crumble when controversy strikes. 6. Daryl Kohley. Daryl Kohley possessed one of gospel's most powerful and distinctive voices. His ability to convey emotion and spiritual depth made him a favorite among gospel purists and casual fans alike. For years, he was considered one of the genre's most anointed singers. But Daryl fought personal battles that often overshadowed his musical gifts. Illness, addiction, and inner struggles created a constant tension between his public ministry and private pain. While he never completely walked away from gospel, those close to him knew he was fighting demons that threatened to destroy everything he'd built. His performances sometimes reflected the internal battle moments of incredible anointing mixed with visible pain and struggle. Daryl's story reminds us that even the most gifted gospel artists are human beings dealing with very real problems. Sometimes, the weight of ministry and the expectation to be a spiritual example becomes too heavy to bear. 5. Moret Brown Clark. Moret Brown Clark built her reputation on emotional, spirit-filled ballads that could bring entire congregations to tears. Her songs like It Ain't Over became anthems for believers facing their darkest moments. She seemed to understand spiritual struggle from the inside out, but understanding struggle and overcoming it are two different things. Moret went through quiet seasons where she seemed to disappear from the gospel scene entirely. While she never publicly denounced her faith, whispers of burnout and spiritual exhaustion followed her. Her story raises a difficult question that many gospel artists face. Is it possible to minister to others about God's love and power while feeling spiritually empty yourself? Moret's journey suggests that even those who sing about overcoming can find themselves overwhelmed by life's challenges. Sometimes the very sensitivity that makes someone a powerful minister also makes them vulnerable to spiritual warfare. 4. James Cleveland. The King of Gospel revolutionized the genre and influenced countless artists. But James Cleveland's personal life was shrouded in whispers and speculation. While his public ministry was powerful and his musical contributions undeniable, those close to him knew he carried heavy secrets. Cleveland's private struggles included health problems and personal issues that he kept carefully hidden from the gospel community. The pressure of maintaining a perfect public image while dealing with private demons took its toll on the man who had given so much to gospel music. His story highlights the unique pressure faced by gospel artists. They're expected to be not just entertainers, but spiritual examples. When private life doesn't match public ministry, the cognitive dissonance can be devastating. James Cleveland changed gospel music forever, but the cost of leading a double life may have been more than one soul could bear. 3. Jessica Reedi. Another Sunday Best winner, Jessica Reedi, had the voice of an angel and the testimony of someone who had overcome incredible odds. Her performances were filled with raw emotion and spiritual power that moved audiences to tears. But behind that incredible voice was a woman struggling with feelings of unworthiness and self-doubt. Jessica spoke openly about battles with depression and times when she wanted to give up on everything, including God. Her honesty was refreshing but also heartbreaking. Jessica used her music as therapy, turning her struggles into songs that helped others facing similar battles. But the question remained: did creating music about overcoming help her overcome, or did it sometimes feel like she was singing about a victory she hadn't yet achieved? Her vulnerability made her relatable, but it also revealed the ongoing nature of spiritual struggle. 2. Edwin Hawkins. Edwin Hawkins brought gospel into the mainstream with "Oh Happy Day," a song that crossed over to secular charts and introduced gospel music to audiences who had never set foot in a church. His innovative approach should have been celebrated by everyone. Instead, Edwin often found himself caught between two worlds. Traditional churches criticized his modern approach, saying he was watering down the gospel message. Secular audiences loved the music but weren't always interested in the message behind it. The constant criticism from religious institutions wore on Edwin over time. When the very churches that should have supported his ministry began to question his methods and motives, it created a spiritual crisis. Did the church's judgment push him away from the faith community he was trying to serve? Edwin's story shows how innovation in gospel music can sometimes come at a personal cost. 1. Tasha Cobbs Leonard. Tasha Cobbs Leonard represents the modern gospel superstar, massively successful, widely influential, and surprisingly transparent about her struggles. Her songs like "Break Every Chain" have become modern gospel classics, and her voice commands respect throughout the industry. But Tasha's honesty about battling depression, anxiety, and spiritual disconnection has raised eyebrows in some gospel circles. She's spoken openly about feeling empty while leading others in worship, about struggling with mental health while singing about God's healing power. Her transparency is both powerful and troubling. It's refreshing to hear a gospel star admit that faith doesn't eliminate all problems, but it also raises questions about the relationship between ministry and personal spiritual health. Can someone effectively lead others to God while feeling spiritually lost themselves? Tasha's ongoing journey suggests that faith is more complicated than many gospel songs suggest. And there you have it, 15 gospel legends whose journeys took heartbreaking turns once the faith faded. Some tried to come back, others disappeared for good, and a few are still searching for meaning beyond the music. But here's the real question: can a voice that once moved millions ever truly be silenced by doubt? Or is there still a path to redemption, even after the spotlight dims? If these stories stirred something in you, don't just scroll away, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold stories that the industry doesn't want you to hear. Because the truth? We're just getting started.